when all hope is lost, magic works in the shadows.
Have you ever felt completely hopeless and then received unexpected help from a mysterious friend? Welcome to Fairy Tales English Journey, where we explore wonderful stories to help you learn English. Today we will read a beautiful tale about a poor shoemaker and his tiny magical helpers. Let us begin our magical journey together right now. The Elves and the Shoemaker is a classic story that teaches us about the magic of kindness and the value of hard work. This story shows how good things happen to good people when they need it the most. As we read, pay attention to the simple English words used to describe this magical night. In a very old European town, there lived a shoemaker and his loving wife. They were very honest and hardworking people who always tried their best. However, times were very hard, and they became very poor. The shoemaker had only enough leather left to make one single pair of shoes for his small shop. The shoemaker carefully cut the leather into the right shapes before he went to sleep. He left the pieces on his wooden workbench so he could sew them together the next morning. He did not feel angry or bitter about his bad luck. He simply trusted that things would somehow get better for them soon. He and his wife ate a very small dinner and went to bed with hopeful hearts. The old house was very quiet and cold, but they kept each other warm. The shoemaker prayed for a little bit of good luck to help them survive the cold winter. Then they both fell fast asleep together. The next morning, the sun shined brightly through the dusty windows of the small shop. The shoemaker woke up early and walked over to his wooden workbench to start his daily work. He expected to see the flat pieces of leather waiting for his needle and thread. Instead, he saw something completely amazing and wonderful. Sitting perfectly on the table was a finished pair of beautiful leather shoes. The shoemaker rubbed his eyes because he could not believe what he was seeing. He picked up the shoes to look at them very closely. The stitches were absolutely perfect, and there was not a single mistake anywhere on the smooth leather. The shoemaker called his wife to come and look at the wonderful mystery. She was just as amazed as her husband when she saw the beautiful work. They wondered who could have entered their locked shop during the dark night. It was a true mystery, but they were very thankful for the beautiful finished shoes. Later that same day, a wealthy customer walked into the small shoe shop. He saw the beautiful new shoes sitting on the wooden table and wanted to try them on immediately. The shoes fit his feet perfectly, like they were made just for him. The customer was so happy that he paid a very high price. With the money from the wealthy customer, the shoemaker could buy enough leather for 2 pairs of shoes. Just like the night before, he cut the leather into perfect shapes and left them on his table. He went to sleep feeling a little more hopeful about their future. The mystery of the helper remained unsolved. When the shoemaker woke up the next morning, he found 2 perfect pairs of shoes on his table. Once again, the stitching was beautiful and completely flawless. The shoemaker and his wife were absolutely amazed by this wonderful blessing. They placed the 2 pairs of shoes in the front window of their small shop. Very soon, 2 more wealthy customers came into the shop and bought the shoes. They paid excellent prices because the quality was so incredibly high. Now the shoemaker had enough money to buy leather for 4 pairs of shoes. The magical cycle continued to bring great wealth and happiness to the poor shoemaker and his wife. He cut the leather for 4 pairs of shoes and left the pieces on his workbench. The next morning, he found 4 beautifully finished pairs of shoes waiting for him. This wonderful pattern continued for many weeks and months. Every piece of leather he left out at night became perfect shoes by the early morning. The shoemaker and his wife were no longer poor and hungry. They had plenty of food to eat and warm clothes to wear during the cold winter. Their small shop became very famous in the town for selling the best shoes. People traveled from far away just to buy shoes from the lucky old shoemaker. One evening, just before the Christmas holiday, the shoemaker had an idea. He said to his wife that they should stay awake and hide to see who was helping them. His wife thought this was a brilliant idea because she wanted to thank their secret helpers. They decided to hide behind some coats in the corner. They lit a small candle and hid quietly behind the heavy winter coats. The clock struck midnight and the room was very still and quiet. Suddenly, 2 tiny elves climbed through the window and jumped onto the wooden workbench. The elves wore very old and torn clothes, but they looked very happy and full of energy. The shoemaker and his wife watched in total amazement as the tiny elves began to work. The elves took their tiny needles and began stitching the leather with incredible speed. Their little hands moved so fast that it looked like pure magic. They hummed a happy little tune while they worked together on the heavy leather. Before the sun began to rise, the elves finished all the shoes perfectly. They cleaned up the wooden workbench and arranged the beautiful shoes in a neat row. Then they quickly jumped out of the window and disappeared into the cold, dark night. The shoemaker and his wife finally knew the secret of their great success. The next morning, the wife spoke to her husband about the tiny elves. She said that the little men had made them very rich and comfortable. She noticed that the elves were wearing very thin and torn clothes in the freezing winter. She wanted to do something special to show their deep gratitude and endless thanks. The wife decided to make warm winter clothes for the two little elves. She took her finest cloth and began to sew 2 tiny little shirts and trousers. She also knitted 2 tiny pairs of warm woolen socks for their cold feet. She worked very carefully to make the clothes as beautiful as the elves' work. The shoemaker also wanted to give the elves a very special gift. He took his softest leather and made 2 tiny pairs of beautiful winter boots. He used his very best stitches to make the tiny boots absolutely perfect. The husband and wife worked together all day to finish the wonderful gifts for their magical friends. On Christmas Eve, they laid out the beautiful tiny clothes and boots on the workbench. They did not leave any leather out to be made into shoes that night. Instead, they left the wonderful gifts and hid behind the heavy coats once again. They waited quietly in the dark to see what the tiny elves would do. When the clock struck midnight, the 2 tiny elves jumped through the window again. They ran to the wooden workbench ready to start their nightly work. Instead of leather, they found the beautiful tiny clothes and the perfect little boots. The elves looked at the gifts with great surprise and absolute joy in their bright eyes. The elves quickly took off their old torn rags and put on the new clothes. The tiny shirts and trousers fit them perfectly and kept them very warm. They pulled the tiny leather boots onto their little feet and smiled happily. They were so excited that they began to dance around the wooden room in pure joy. The tiny elves sang a beautiful song about their wonderful new winter clothes. They sang that they were now fine gentlemen and no longer needed to make shoes. They danced right out the door and into the snowy winter night. The shoemaker and his wife watched them leave with happy tears in their kind eyes. The shoemaker and his wife never saw the 2 tiny elves ever again. However, their lives remained full of great joy and wonderful prosperity. The shoemaker continued to make beautiful shoes with his own 2 hands. He always remembered the tiny magical helpers who saved him when he was poor and completely hopeless in the cold. This beautiful fairy tale teaches us many wonderful lessons about life and kindness. First, it shows us the true importance of working hard and never giving up hope. The shoemaker did his very best even when he had almost nothing left. He prepared his work carefully and trusted that a better tomorrow was always possible. The story also teaches us about the magic of silent helpers in our lives. Sometimes help comes from places we never expect when we need it the most. The elves did not ask for any money or praise for their hard work. They simply helped the poor shoemaker because it was the right thing to do. The elves represent the pure goodness that exists in the world around us. They show us that true kindness does not need an audience or a loud reward. When we do good things for others secretly, it brings a special kind of magic. This silent kindness makes the world a much better place for everyone living here. We also learn a very important lesson about gratitude and saying thank you. The shoemaker and his wife did not just take the shoes and forget their helpers. They wanted to show their deep appreciation for the hard work the elves did. They used their own special talents to make beautiful gifts for the little men. The wife sewed beautiful warm clothes, and the husband made perfect tiny boots. They noticed that the elves were cold and needed proper winter clothing. This shows that true gratitude involves paying attention to what others might need. Giving back to those who help us is a beautiful way to spread love and joy everywhere. The story also highlights the beautiful partnership between the shoemaker and his wife. They supported each other through the very difficult times of poverty and hunger. They also shared the joy of their sudden wealth and mysterious success together. Working together as a loving team makes both good times and bad times much easier to handle. Let us look at some useful English words from this wonderful fairy tale. The word shoemaker means a person who makes or fixes shoes for a living. The word workbench is a strong table where a person does their physical work. Learning these simple words helps you understand English stories much better and improves your vocabulary. Another important word from our story is leather, which is a strong material. Leather is made from animal skin and is used to make shoes and bags. The word stitches refers to the loops of thread used to join cloth or leather together. The elves made perfect stitches, which means their work was incredibly good. We also heard the word gratitude, which means a feeling of being thankful. When the wife saw the cold elves, she felt deep gratitude in her heart. She wanted to express her thanks by making them warm clothes for the winter. Expressing gratitude is a wonderful way to build strong friendships and spread happiness around. The word prosperity means being successful and having enough money to live comfortably. After the elves helped them, the shoemaker and his wife enjoyed great prosperity. They were no longer poor and could live a very happy and comfortable life. Prosperity often comes to those who work hard and remain kind to others around them. Think about a time when someone helped you without asking for anything back. How did that silent kindness make you feel inside your heart and mind? Did you find a special way to show your gratitude to that kind person? Remembering these moments helps us appreciate the wonderful people in our own daily lives. You can also be a silent helper to someone who needs a friend. You do not need magic to make a positive difference in someone else's life. A small act of kindness can change a person's entire day for the better. Try doing something nice for someone today without telling anyone else about your good deed. Reading fairy tales is a fantastic way to practice your English listening skills. The stories are usually simple to follow but contain very rich and descriptive vocabulary. By listening to the story of the shoemaker, you are training your brain. You are learning how English sentences are structured in a natural and very engaging way. Notice how the story uses adjectives to describe the scenes and the characters. Words like tiny, cold, beautiful, and wealthy help paint a picture in your mind. Using adjectives correctly makes your spoken English much more interesting and very colorful. Try to use more descriptive words when you tell your own stories to your friends. The story of the shoemaker has been told for many generations across Europe. It was famously written down by the Brothers Grimm many years ago. These classic stories connect us to the past and teach universal human values. Kindness, hard work, and gratitude are important in every culture and every language around the whole world. Even though the elves left, the shoemaker continued to be very successful. This teaches us that temporary help can give us the push we need. The elves gave the shoemaker a fresh start, but he kept working hard. We must use the help we received to build a better future with our own two hands. The magic in this story is not just about the tiny dancing elves. The real magic is the kindness shared between the humans and the magical creatures. It is the magic of giving without expecting a reward in return. This kind of magic is real, and we can create it every single day of our lives. When you learn English with fairy tales, you are doing something very special. You are connecting with stories that have brought joy to millions of children. You are learning a new language through the power of human imagination and wonder. Keep exploring these magical worlds, and your English skills will continue to grow very strong. Let us review the main message of the elves and the shoemaker today. Always do your best work even when things seem very dark and difficult. Be open to receiving help from unexpected places and mysterious new friends. Always remember to say thank you and show your gratitude to those who help you succeed. Practice telling this story to your friends or family members in simple English. Start by describing the poor shoemaker and his empty wooden workbench at night. Then talk about the magical discovery of the perfect shoes the next morning. Finally, describe the beautiful gifts the shoemaker and his wife made for the tiny elves. Retelling stories is one of the best ways to improve your English fluency. It helps you remember new vocabulary words and practice your English grammar rules. Do not worry if you make a few mistakes while telling the story. The most important thing is to communicate the beautiful message of kindness and silent helpers. We hope you enjoyed this magical journey into the world of fairy tales. The story of the shoemaker reminds us all to be kind and grateful. It shows us that good things happen when we work hard and remain hopeful. Keep this beautiful lesson in your heart as you continue your English learning journey today. If you loved this story, please subscribe to Fairy Tales English Journey now. We have many more wonderful stories to share with you every single week. Each video will help you learn new English words in a fun way. Join our growing community of English learners and fairy tale lovers from all around the world. Thank you so much for watching and learning with us here today. Remember to be a silent helper to someone who needs a little kindness. Practice your English every day and never give up on your big dreams. We will see you next time for another magical adventure on Fairy Tales English Journey right here.
Top 10 best sentences to learn English. Number 1. An open vintage storybook showing a beautiful European coastal landscape, glowing magical light coming from the pages, inviting and warm. Explanation. This sentence is excellent for learning descriptive adjectives like vintage, old and high quality, and inviting, attractive and welcoming. Number 2. A humble, weather-beaten European man in his 50s with a graying beard. Explanation. The term weather-beaten is a great compound adjective to describe someone whose skin or appearance has been changed by long exposure to the sun and wind. Number 3. A dilapidated, crooked wooden shack near the edge of a calm blue sea. Explanation. This sentence uses advanced vocabulary like dilapidated, in a state of ruin, and crooked, not straight, to vividly describe a setting. Number 4. A massive magical flatfish with shimmering golden scales and wise, expressive eyes. Explanation. The word shimmering is a poetic way to describe something that shines with a soft, slightly wavering light, while expressive suggests the eyes show a lot of emotion. Number 5. The fisherman gently unhooking the golden flounder and placing it back into the clear blue water. Explanation. This sentence demonstrates the use of present participle phrases, unhooking, placing, to describe continuous actions in a scene. Number 6. The furious wife yelling at the fisherman, pointing her finger toward the door of the shack. Explanation. Furious is a powerful synonym for very angry. This sentence also shows how to describe a physical gesture using a participle phrase. Number 7. The fisherman arriving to see a beautiful, cozy cottage, his wife sitting happily on a bench. Explanation. Cozy is an essential English word to describe a place that is small, warm, comfortable, and pleasant. Number 8. The fisherman walking against fierce wind by a dark gray, loudly crashing sea. Explanation. Using fierce to describe wind and crashing to describe waves helps create a strong, dramatic atmosphere in English writing. Number 9. Kings and dukes bowing before the cold, greedy wife while the fisherman watches. Explanation. This sentence contrasts the high social status of the visitors with the negative character traits, cold, greedy, of the woman. Number 10. The wife sitting in silence, realizing her greed destroyed everything, the shack looking poor and empty. Explanation. This sentence uses the word realizing to show a character's sudden understanding, which is a key narrative device in English storytelling.